Wait for it. The Notion API is incredibly powerful, and if you stick with me for this video, you'll have the bliss of an empty inbox within minutes. If this is the first you've heard of the API, maybe jump across into my other video from last week when I went into explaining in much more detail what the API is. This is just a quick video to get your inbox cleared as soon as possible so you can go about prioritizing those tasks in amongst your lessons, the rest of your calendar, and making sure you've got some real time off. So let's jump into Notion and we'll get building straight away. Okay, so here we are looking at my inbox 0, but what we see is that my setup is that I have a subfolder called Notion Task and another subfolder called Notion Remember, okay? And all I have to do is, let me drag this back into the inbox. I'll drag this back into the inbox, okay? All I have to do is whenever I see an email, a task that I have to do, okay, I'm not going to do it if it's more than 2 minutes. I'm not going to do it straight away. I want to plan that later in amongst, correctly prioritize in amongst my other tasks. So I'm going to drag that task into my Notion Task folder. And I'm going to drag my thing I have to remember into my Notion Remember folder. Okay, and then what we see in my action items table, which is a database within Notion that I have. We have the task has appeared there and the thing to remember has appeared. And if we open up the task, it links back to Outlook, to the actual email in Outlook, and also it pulls in a few basic details. It pulls in something like the first 2,000 characters of the email from my inbox. Okay, so I can get a very brief description. Okay, I have a quick, oh yeah, I remember what that was about now. Okay, I'm going to schedule that for a due date of next week, Monday next week. I'm going to do that. It's an email. It's no longer to review. Okay, that's in my system, which I understand. You'll have your own system. My system, that's a second priority item. I need to remember to do it. It's an email. It's coming in as an email, and Notion has, because of how I've set up the bot in Automate, Notion has given it this tag GTD context of emails, and it's assigned it a due date. Initially it was assigned a due date of today when it arrived, so that I remember to review it today, but now I'm going to reschedule that for Monday at some point. I can click on that link and it would take me back to the original email, okay? And likewise, if I go into my thing to remember, I can click open, thing to remember, and there is same detail from things to remember, except this is prioritized as something to remember, because maybe not a task, it's just some detail that I need to remember. It's coming into my emails. The due date was today, so that I'm triggered later on that day to remember to have a quick review of this item. Okay, perfect. Now, so you've seen how I dragged the email from my inbox into the Notion Task and Notion Remember subfolders. But now what you want to see is how I've set that up. What you want to see now is how I've configured the Automate IO to use the API to move those emails from my Outlook inbox into the appropriate area of Notion. Okay, so looking at my Automate setup now, right? So what I do is I come in and my trigger event is in Microsoft Outlook. It's a new email in Microsoft Outlook, and it's in the subfolder Notion Task. So any new email dropping into the Notion Task subfolder will trigger this event, okay? And the rest is then across in action number 1. And what I want in Notion, what I want to happen is for a new database item to be added. I want it to be added into my action items database. Okay, and you've seen that when I showed you in Notion. Okay, and the details that I drag across to make this happen are that my email subject gets dragged into content heading, my email body preview gets dragged into content paragraph. And you saw that email body preview. That's the first 2,000 characters there of that particular email is dragged into that bottom section. Okay, the Gmail link is the email web link, and that allows me then to link back to the original item in my Outlook mailbox. Okay, my priority ID, well, I'm going to set that as to review. I want that item to be reviewed. I want the item to be flagged as for review in my mailbox or in my action items tracker. A GTD context, that's emails, so that I can then filter if I want to. I can filter for all emails in my action items tracker. And no other details in there according to that setup. Okay, the title of the action item in my Notion action items database will be the email subject. That's fine, and that's it. Okay, and that is how that's set up. Now, separately from that, the Microsoft Outlook to remember. So very similarly, if I've got something that drops into my emails I want to remember, it's not something that I need to do necessarily, it's something I need to remember. It's going to go into that Notion remember folder. Okay, and then we come across to our action item, action number 1. We're going to want Notion to add a database item into the action items, and it's going to be the same email subject, the same email preview as for tasks, email web link, but the priority now is to remember. Okay, whereas for the tasks it was to review, because I want to actively have to review that item before I do something with it in order that it's correctly prioritized and scheduled according to the rest of my system. An item to remember just needs to be remembered, so my priority for that item is to remember. The rest of the details in that automate bot are the same as for action items. Okay, so you'll be able to set that up. Just look at the action items setup, and the input fields for the remember items are the same as for the action items, except for that the priority for a remember item is remember and not to review. And I'll just hit save up there, and that is sorted. Okay, hope that was super useful. If you're watching Notion for Teachers, I'm Andrew. Hit subscribe and the bell icon and you'll be notified when I'm dropping new videos every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and see you again soon.